now joined by head coach Sam Serio of the McKinney High School swimming and diving team. Another successful year for the team and another successful year for one of your star swimmers, Sammy Hoshbarger, and she won another state title, this time in the 500-yard freestyle, and she also finished third in the 200-yard freestyle at state.
Yes, she signed with Texas earlier in the year, and they wanted her in the 500 because that's where they're going to use her in the distance. And she pulled off a gold medal, and she reset 5 school records this year, but they're all hers already. So,
just kind of expected her to break her own school records, right. I'm guessing.
Well, she's got them set where it's going to be tough to break.
Yeah, those records might stand a decade, perhaps longer. You never know when the next youth crop of swimmers are going to come in that are going to be at her level, but she certainly put a tough mark to beat in those.
Right. Mackenzie Grider is going to give it a good shot next year, but Sammy did some real good swims this year.
In that 500-yard freestyle, she won that event at state by 16 seconds. And obviously in the distance races, you're going to have a larger margin of victory potentially in some of those swims because it's a longer race. But 16 seconds still for 500 yards is very impressive.
Yeah, it wasn't 16. It was 2 body lengths, which is very impressive with those girls. That's she let them know she was going to win from start to finish.
I'll have to check that UIL website again. They put 16 seconds. I was looking at that and thinking, oh my goodness, that's a huge victory.
Yeah, that would be the length of the pool, and she wasn't that far ahead.
Not quite that far, but still good enough as long as she got the job done.
She made sure she was going to win it.
In the 200-yard freestyle, she finished just under 5/10 behind the winner. She finished third in that event, and probably you think that she could have won that event and was very disappointed not to win that event.
Right, and I think that gave her the motivation to take out the 500 and win it, without a doubt. But it was a three-girl touch, and she was third on that one, but she had led all the way to the last lap.
As a coach, do you give them any advice when they're going into it? Because so often races are determined by that last stroke that you have going into, and whether you try and glide in early for the touch to the wall or whether you try to jab at the end.
Yeah, we've got to finish. It's got to be a jab. It doesn't matter which race you're doing. It's got to be a fast finish.
And it certainly was. It just not quite fast enough in that particular event. Also had Jacob South, who's a diver at the state meet, and he finished 9th, which was a great showing for him as he's a sophomore and he's going to have 2 more years to dive. What's his potential going forward?
Yeah, last year he went in as 16th and finished 14th. This year he went in as 11th and finished 9th, which is very good. And Sammy made All-American in her events, and he made All-American in diving. So.
And there's only 11 All-Americans from the state of Texas in diving this year.
Right, so far.
So far. And going forward for Jacob, what are some of the things he can improve on that you feel like is going to get him that score to improve it, which he scored a 384.75, and the winner is about at the 520 mark. What are some of the things that he wants to do to improve and get that score higher?
He gets to learn more difficult dives, and he's doing that. He goes down to SMU and dives with the big boys down there 2 or 3 days a week. So they're forcing him to raise his level of competition.
The relays are so big for teams in diving. That's where you have the most swimmers. You get teams of 4 going in there. It kind of sets the tone for everybody in the meets. How impressed were you with both your boys and girls relays teams this year?
Well, our boys didn't make regionals, so I was a little depressed there. But the girls, they made their regionals. They finished 5th in district, and the boys finished 7th. And so we got to take all 3 girls relays to the regionals, and we improved our times, and that's the name of this game. If you can beat yourself, that's all we're looking for. Sooner or later, you're going to beat everybody.
Yeah, because swimming is one of those things where you can't do anything to affect the competition. It's all got to be about yourself, and so it's all about setting personal best times and keep breaking that, and that's how you know you're getting better.
Right. You've got to set goals and achievable goals and then work to get there.
When I've talked to the other coaches earlier today for these interviews, and now talking to you, it seems like a lot of swimmers, as they go into junior and senior year, and somewhat predictably that they do break their own times and do break their own records and so forth. But how difficult is it throughout the course of a season for them to get to the point where they can break their personal best time? Because sometimes you go into a year and you just don't have it and you can't quite get down to that time.
Well, if you train, you're going to get better if you train properly. And the ones that work, their times come down. Simple as that. If you do the work, your times are going to get better. And that's the name of the game. If you don't work out, you don't get any better. So if you're going slower, you're not working hard enough.
How much as a coach do you have to push these kids to work, or is it all them themselves telling you, hey, coach, I'm doing the work, I'm doing this all on my own?
Swimming is a hard sport, and you've got to love it to stay with it, and the coaches still have to push you. It doesn't matter if you're a Sammy or the beginner. You've got to push them all.
What are you looking forward to with next year's team? Obviously, Sammy's going on to UT to do some great things there, but with who you have coming back next year, what are some of the expectations early on that you foresee for this team?
Well, I've got a freshman that can swim, two girls coming in, and both of them are saying they can swim a minute in the 100 free, and that would be good because that's the ideal time for girls. Guys, we need to be 54s, but girls, if they can break that minute barrier, we'll be in good shape. But I don't know what kind of freshman boys I have, but I know one freshman girl, and then a move-in from up north came in last week before spring break, and she's supposed to be good. So we'll see.
A nice before spring break surprise there for you to get that moving?
Well, they had emailed me in November, so I knew she was coming. I just didn't know when. But Mackenzie Grider should be the leader next year, and we'll see how many other juniors rise up to the level of leadership that we need.
And Coach Serio, thanks again for coming in and doing this interview with us, and appreciate your time as always.
Thank you for having me.
McKinney swim team had a great year again, and Mackenzie Grider is going to be the one to watch next year as she takes over the leadership role on this team. As we wrap up today's show, wanted to get you up to date on the latest and some other McKinney ISD sports. What a run it was for the McKinney North girls basketball team. They pulled off the upset over top-ranked Northside Brennan at the state semifinals and held the lead in the fourth quarter of the state championship game. However, an equally impressive Canyon team came back and defeated North 49-42. KK Connor had a sensational state tournament for the Bulldogs, scoring 18 in the semifinal and 13 in the championship game. There are a lot of talented young players returning next year for Coach Oldham's squad, so you can bet they'll be in contention next year to return to Austin. Congrats, girls, on a tremendous season. Next week on the show, we'll talk with the girls' soccer coaches about their season, how they finished, and possibly a little bit of an extended season into the playoffs. The District 13 4A title race is coming down to the wire between North and Prosper, and the field is so bunched up in 10-5A that tomorrow's McKinney High versus Boyd game has heavy implications for both teams on their playoff potential. Join us next week to find out what happens. From all of us at Sports Talk, I'm Tyler Sloan. Have a great week.